Hatch was recently speaking at the American Enterprise Institute, and during his speech, he decided to do a little commentary in regard to those who have been supportive of the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare, as it's also known as, and he decided to insult people. Let's have some fun. Let's hear what he had to say.
We also finally did away with the individual mandate tax that was established under that wonderful bill called Obamacare. Now, if you didn't catch on, I was being very sarcastic. That was the stupidest, dumbass bill that I've ever seen. Now, some of you may have loved it. If you do, you are one of the stupidest, dumbass people I've ever met. This was one, and there are a lot of them up there on Capitol Hill from time to time.
So for those who have been supportive of the Affordable Care Act, Orrin Hatch believes that you are a stupid dumbass. And so, he's not seeking re-election. As we know, he has decided to, kind of allow someone else to run for his seat, and Mitt Romney is planning on doing so. But what I think is interesting is that he has a little bit of a history speaking like this, and I'm gonna bring up that history in just a second. But quickly, keep in mind that 54% of Americans do view Obamacare favorably compared to 42% who have an unfavorable view. This is based on a recent survey that was done by the Kaiser Family Foundation. Also, among those polled by Kaiser, the majority are unaware that the Affordable Care Act's individual mandate was repealed. So that's a little unfortunate because the repeal of the individual mandate will lead to higher premiums. And so hopefully people will be able to connect the dots. Republicans are the ones who wanted to do away with that mandate. But he has apologized because he did face a little bit of backlash due to those comments. He said, "Yesterday I made a poorly worded joke about Obamacare supporters, a joke that was not reflective of my actual feelings toward my friends on the other side. Throughout my term of service, I have always recognized the importance of civility, particularly in engaging with those of different political perspectives." But if you look back 7 years ago, literally 7 years ago today, you will see that Orrin Hatch made similar comments. Take a look.
He is the biggest establishment Republican in the country. Now he's trying to pretend to be populist and hip. So here's what he says to the crowd. Quote, "Every state has different demographics. Every state has different problems. It's good to allow them to work out their own problems rather than a one-size-fits-all federal government dumbass program. It really is an awful piece of crap." Okay, that's awesome. Look, first of all, Hatch hasn't cursed in like 30 years. Okay, I don't know if he curses in private or if he doesn't, but he's a very stiff guy. He's not the kind of guy that goes around dropping F-bombs like Dick Cheney, okay, or Rahm Emanuel. So for him to throw out those curses, he didn't slip up. He's doing it on purpose. He's doing it to be like, "Oh, look at how angry I am. I am so passionate like you Tea Partiers. What a piece of crap that is. I hate Obama."
That's funny. I think I was going to say the same thing this time.
It's so good, you can repeat it.
Right. I think that was back when I was on MSNBC and I was shooting it out of.
Yes, that was when you were in New York.
Yeah, shooting it out of New York. So it's true. He's trying to relate to people, and by the way, he's not. This is bipartisan. A lot of Democrats are now cursing, but like light cursing to appear to be populist because they realize, oh, populism's taking over the country. Now I don't really want to do anything the populists want, like serve the people. So instead, I will replace that with crap and poopy pants. And I'm not offended by what he said. I don't care. So he thinks the people that support Obamacare is dumbasses. So I think he's a dumbass. We're even. I think civility is overrated. Yeah. You could bomb the hell out of countries and kill a lot of civilians, but if you call someone a dumbass in Washington, you're not in the club anymore. So if we're getting rid of those stupid rules, great. I would like some consistency though, because when Hillary Clinton called Republican voters deplorables, they were like, "Oh, how could you?" So when he calls 54% of the country dumbasses, okay, I guess that should haunt him the rest of his career.
But I think when Hillary Clinton did say that, it was disgusting. I think
Really?
Yeah,
I don't think so at all. I think they are deplorable.
I don't think you can paint with such broad brushstrokes about an entire group of people without even talking to them or knowing.
Well, I have talked to them. I've talked to them online over and over again. So, and Simone, let me be clear. Exactly as Hillary Clinton said, not all Republicans. She said about half of Trump's voters are deplorable. People leave that part out that she said half. And the other half you can actually talk to and convince and actually have real concerns about the economy, et cetera. It was actually one of the best statements, in my opinion, she's made.
It wasn't good for getting out the vote, I would say. It wasn't a good get out the vote sound bite, I think.
No, I even disagree with that.
Really?
So we're already having fun, lots of disagreements on the panel.
Yeah.
The reason why I think it could have worked if she hadn't backpedaled and panicked about it is, yeah, I am the Democratic candidate. I am opposed to the Republican politicians and to the voters who vote that way, and so let's get it on. And so if she had that fighting attitude, she might have won. And so, yeah.
I think she should have directed it at the politicians, not at potential voters or the people. I also think, I think that if she had run more like the what difference does it make candidate, you remember how she spoke at the Benghazi hearings, and as most people know, I'm a major Bernie bro, so I say that with, take this with a grain of salt, but that I think is how she should have run. So I agree with you that if she had more of a fighting spirit, she would have related to the base more. I think she would have lost people who already hate her and think and find her uncomfortable for gender reasons. They would have been gone anyway. But I think that kind of attitude would have excited people. So I agree with you on that. But I agree with you on the idea that it's probably not a good thing to kind of insult a bunch of people. I think it just feeds into Democrats being smug, elitists, out of touch. And
I just think it's interesting that there's this double standard, right? And so look, I think in any other election, I would agree that it's not the right way to go about it to, say disparaging things about the opponent's supporters. However, in the Trump era, and especially during the campaign, when you consider the type of rhetoric that they used when they were attacking her, and when you consider the type of rhetoric that Trump himself used in attacking other women, for some reason they get a pass, right?
But don't we want politicians who are above that? Don't we want politicians who set a higher bar?
Era. That's gone. It's over. And I think maybe that's something that's sad and something that we should really consider, reverting back to. But I think that her deplorable comment was accurate. And
well, we're talking about two things, right? We're talking about strategy, tactics on the one hand, and then we're talking about like moral, ethical questions on the other. I think that what I do think is really important to underline, and you were saying this about civility being overrated, is that I don't care if you speak in a nice, sweet, diplomatic way while you're depriving people of their health care, right? I would rather you be gruff and crude and fighting for people's literal lives, right? Fighting to give people health care, than you be polite and also literally depriving people of life, right? And I think that civility can be weaponized often in a way to cover up what you're doing. And it's actually, I find that much more disgusting than the saying a dumbass thing.
Well, the irony of this comment is that Orrin Hatch was actually calling some conservatives and some Republicans stupid, dumbass people because Tomi Lahren was on Obamacare. And there were several governors in red states who were reticent to support certain repeal actions because they felt like it had the chance of negatively impacting their constituents' health. So again, for me, I never think it's wise to generalize so broadly. And I think it just makes him look it makes him look not wise, I would say, and that's why he had to walk these comments back.
I actually think the comments that he made weren't, in an attempt to reach out to
right, he's not running for re-election.
He's not running for re-election. I really think that he's genuine in thinking of these people as so-called dumbasses. I think that, he has nothing to lose. I'm surprised he even apologized, right? I don't think he cares about appealing to anyone right now.
So it's fascinating how much we disagree on this issue in a lot of different ways. So, but I do agree with Simone that he could have been offending a lot of Republicans because he was speaking at a right-wing think tank. Now, it happened to be American Enterprise Institute.
Right.
But I had to recheck. I was like, wait, was he at Heritage Foundation? Because if he was speaking at the right-wing think tank of Heritage Foundation, they're the ones who came up with the plan in the first place.
Yeah, Romneycare, right? Style,
It was the right-wing think tank, then Romneycare, then Obama adopted it. So it was initially a Republican plan, so he's in a sense calling Republicans that came up with that plan dumbasses. And but look, one more thing to Katie's point, civility if everyone is civil and no one is too harsh, what it does is it protects the status quo.
Yes, exactly, yeah.
And so the people in power and people with privilege want to protect the status quo. So that's why they value civility. So I'm not just saying that you shouldn't value civility at all. And I don't want people to rip each other's faces off and stuff, but when you overvalue civility, it is usually to say, hey, everybody pipe down. Yeah. You're a little too excited. Oh, somebody doesn't have health care. Oh, we bomb civilians. Don't get so worked up, okay? Just keep going with what we're doing right now.
Yeah, it's decorum over actual policy.
But are we then saying that bipartisanship can't or shouldn't exist in our current climate?
Well, it 100% depends, okay? Depends on what they agree to. So right now, unfortunately, over the last several decades, bipartisanship has meant we both agree to what our corporate donors want. So if you look at what they agreed to, it is almost always to the advantage of the rich and powerful. Look at what they just agreed to. I mean, in a sense, to be fair, a lot of Democrats, most of the Democrats voted against it, but tax cuts for the rich and for corporations. But in the past, just magically, whenever the Democrats are in charge or Republicans in charge, the only thing they could agree to is tax cuts for the rich. Under Bush, there was tax cuts for the rich. Under Obama, there was the appearance of rolling that back a little bit, but he actually only rolled back 6% of that revenue. 94% of that revenue actually became permanent. The tax cuts for the rich became permanent under Obama. They sunset under Bush. Then you go to Trump, again, they agree on tax cuts for the rich. It's not a coincidence. Now, on the other hand, Simone, if we had a clean system, one that was not drenched in money and private financing of elections, then I would love bipartisanship, because then they would try to be serving their voters. And to your point, Simone, most of the voters, not all, obviously we disagree on that, but most of the voters do agree. If you look at all the issues, usually they're above 60% agreement. Protect Social Security, protect Medicare, higher wages, and you go down the list. But those are the things that the politicians today all vote against.
Right.
You just watched the video by the Young Turks, the home of the revolution. If you'd like to get the full show, come join us and become a member. tytnetwork.com/join.